There we go. Hi, everyone. Just before we start, I'm just going to break the ice a little bit by telling you about something absolutely ridiculous I did at work yesterday. So about to submit my slide, I couldn't quite remember the title we'd agreed on. So I asked somebody at Secarma, I can't remember the title, please can you let me know? He said, "Oh, morning, Jen, we have a problem." And I was like, "Oh gosh, what's happened?" And he said, "No, Jen, that's the title of your presentation." So that was a little heart-in-mouth moment for me yesterday. So there we go. Jen, we have a problem. Managing Director at Secarma, we've got a stand upstairs, so please do come and say hi to us. We're all really friendly. We're only based kind of 2 minutes down the road, so we know this area well. But I just wanted to share some of my experiences from, some of my earlier career working as the person who was responsible should we have a cyber incident. So this was my worst day at work, and an absolute true story, working in the legal sector, so lots of sensitive data, huge amounts of money flying around when organisations are selling properties or when people are selling properties. And I had this message on Teams, "Jen, one of our clients has had an email from me that I didn't send." And that was the first time I'd ever had to figure out what on earth to do. And it was the most stressful day, week for the team. And it was something that I hope nobody ever has to go through, but I'm sure that there are people sat in this room today who are that person that would get that message. And I just want to give a little bit of context to this as well. So I'm sure, again, there are people in this room, the person who receives the vendor questionnaires, please can you fill out this for this major contract that we're going to win, or please can you answer these questions on our insurance renewal quote. And actually, there are changing expectations of these parties that are asking us questions about our security. So 2021, I think the vast majority of questions were around how are you going to prevent a cyber attack? So what antivirus solutions do you have in place? How are your firewall rules configured? Do you allow staff to work day-to-day on admin accounts, or do you employ good segregation? It was all about what are you going to do to prevent a cyber attack happening in the first place. Now, we're seeing a huge shift. There seems to be this general kind of acceptance across the market that a cyber attack is going to happen. And those questionnaires are now focused on how well can you recover from that attack. So we're being asked more questions around our business continuity planning, our disaster recovery plans, how well are we prepared to respond to an incident, what third parties do we use in our incident response, what are our recovery time objectives. And there's also an acceptance that the length of time it takes to recover from a cyber attack actually directly impacts how costly that attack is for the organisation. So, huge tip for me, and the thing I think that we did quite well during the particular incident we suffered was that comms is absolutely everything. So good communication internally and externally during a cyber attack is the absolute difference between you being able to trade through it with minimal damage and actually completely losing your reputation. So I know the legal sector quite well, and I know that in the last few months, a major supplier to law firms had a significant cyber attack. And actually, their reputation was done absolutely no favors whatsoever by the fact that they did not communicate at all with their clients. And there were people sat in moving vans waiting to move house, not knowing when they were going to be able to do that because an IT provider to the legal sector hadn't communicated with the law firms, and they then couldn't pass that message on to their clients. So there's absolutely it was one of those, I don't know, we don't know what's going on. And that's a disaster. So be transparent with your inner circle. And by your inner circle, I mean those people within the business that are going to help you to get through this. So, the people you know, trust, tell them everything. Your third parties that are going to help you with this, tell them everything. But more importantly, agree right up front a statement that you're going to be able to communicate to your clients and other third parties that aren't part of your inner circle of trust. And make sure that those people in the business who are communicating with clients, so we're talking about your help desk and your support teams, make sure that they are aware of this statement. And it's a very generic, we're dealing with an incident, we'll next update you at this time. No need for details because you won't know any details right at the outset. But make sure you've got something to communicate. Oh, I think my thingy's not working. I think my buttons start working. There we go. Okay, so before you do anything else, you need these two documents. You need your business continuity plan and you need your disaster recovery plan. This is a really bad time to figure out that actually you haven't got either of these documents. I'm asked a lot of questions when we're delivering consultancy to our customers around what's the difference, why do I need both? So in a nutshell, your business continuity plan is the thing that allows you to continue trading under abnormal circumstances. So it may include things like alternative sites if you're physically based. It might be alternative technology solutions. It might actually be a manual process. So this is the plan that actually keeps you trading. Your disaster recovery document is the plan that allows you to return to normal operations as efficiently and as safely as possible. So you've got the two plans. You've gathered your team of experts that are going to help you, including your third party, so these huge contracts, and quite often your insurers as well. They will have experts that you can rely on for recovery. The first step is to identify the problem. And again, use your vendors to help. So you're looking at logs, what alerts have been triggered, what are the unusual behaviors that are happening within the organization. And obviously, to understand the unusual behaviors, you have to have really strong processes of understanding what's normal for your organization. So if you're not regularly monitoring your network traffic or the patterns that your staff are using to log into certain systems, it's really difficult to know when something unusual is taking place. So make sure you know the normal fingerprint for your organization. So stay open-minded at this stage. So the incident that I referred to at the beginning ended up being a really low-tech attack. It wasn't a sophisticated anything. It was a member of staff who'd chosen a really awful password and would reuse that across multiple services. And they'd logged into her Microsoft 365 account, and they were actually sending emails to our clients from her deleted box. So it's something really simple. It was really quick to discover, but I think had we have launched ourselves down the route of, this is definitely a sophisticated attack, we'd have just never found that. So don't forget those really basic things as well. The next step is to contain the incident. So assume worst case scenario. So assume that, if they've got access to somebody's deleted inbox, they've probably got access to their other Microsoft services that are using. They're probably across the Azure environment. Think worst case scenario and work backwards. And don't discount any lateral movement until you have evidence that you can discount it. Immediately disable accounts that are being used. So I use the approach of kill it with fire, never use it again, we'll reprovision something else. And do everything you can to prevent that lateral movement. At this point, don't release details to anybody outside your circle of trust, because actually what you could be doing is feeding information to a malicious insider or feeding information to a malicious insider inside one of your third-party suppliers. So keep it to that circle of trust for now. Really important point, and my first line says, if you have no experience of forensically protecting or forensically preserving evidence, get some. So talk to your insurers, talk to your legal counsels, get some help with protecting your forensic evidence, because actually this is what's going to help you to have some recourse after the event. So adopt a crime scene mentality. So think about this as a physical crime. Document everything, photograph everything, preserve the logs, and actually make sure that that evidence is encrypted and protected. At this point, don't delete anything because actually you may need to rely on that. So again, wait until your experts tell you that you can remove this now before you do so. And then we move on to actually the really sensitive phase of an incident. And whilst, yes, we say that the longer an incident is in business continuity operations, the more expensive it's going to be for the organisation, rushing the recovery phase can actually put you under more harm. So I've consulted with clients that have found an issue. They've gone through their business continuity plan to continue trading through the incident. They then think they've found the extent of the incident. They think they've contained it. They then go through the recovery plan, only to discover that at step 5 of 20 of the recovery plan, the incident is still ongoing and they've actually just opened up more of their environment to the bad guys. So you must continue to monitor for unusual behaviours through your recovery phase. Otherwise, you may well be undoing all of the good work that your teams are doing to recover. Check any backups before you restore from them, because actually you could be restoring from a contaminated backup. So it's really important to make sure that they're all clean before you do so. Obviously, again, this is a really awful time to realise that you might have a 90-day backup policy, but this key system that has been breached only supports 2 days of backup. So make sure you know in advance what the backup capabilities are across the key bits of technology within the organisation and your key data stores, because actually it is an awful time to figure out you've got no backups. Prioritise, so make sure that your business critical assets are brought back first. The whole point of the recovery phase is to move from your business continuity, almost panic stations trading, back to normal operations. So prioritising those really key business lines, what do we actually need to trade normally again, is definitely the best approach. But you must look out for those residual threats. During recovery, it's a really good time to think about, how are we going to prevent this from happening again, which takes me nicely on to the last part of dealing with a cyber incident. And actually, probably the most important part is learn from what just happened. Now, the organisation I was in, we were really lucky in the fact that this incident was fairly small. It only affected a really small number of clients, and actually nobody sent a few £100,000 to another party that shouldn't have had a few £100,000. However, the activity that we undertook afterwards was huge. And for me as the CTO at the time, it was a really good tool for me to go to the board and say, listen, guys, we've got to do better. We had a really, it was more than a near miss, but we had a really small incident. That could have been much worse. Use that opportunity for a full process and business review. There's nothing better to, train staff than an actual real life, this is what could have happened, and this is, this was our near miss. Use that opportunity to evaluate the third parties. It's a really good time to say, actually, who jumped on the phone and helped us? Who made their best people available to us? Did we get value from the suppliers that we were expecting to get value from? And don't just think about technical improvements to stop that particular attack happening again. Is there anything fundamentally we could have changed? And quite often that's a cultural change. So that the change that happened after the incident that I'm discussing was we became paranoid, not in a bad way. We became paranoid about communications and who we were communicating with. And we always ask that second question is, does that make sense? Even though we don't think anything's happened, does that communication make sense? And then could we have done anything proactive? So actually, yes, we probably at that point should have had MFA rolled out across everything. Can tell you within 2 days it was. But think about what could we have done to prevent that. We accept that staff and insiders are always going to be our biggest threat. What can we do to help them to not be such a threat? And then I come back to comms, because I've said at the beginning.
I have to let you stop there.
Oh.
Yeah, you're out of time, I'm afraid. Final point? Do you have?
Yeah, I'm just going to come back to communications.
Okay.
Okay, so make sure that you acknowledge the failures. There was, I've seen organisations be really transparent about what happened after the event, and actually that does a lot to restore the trust and the confidence of customers. So, and make sure that you thank all of those staff and those suppliers that helped you through that resolution. That's it, there you go, I only had a minute or so.
Thank you.
That's all right.